Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into the pretty wild world of Elon Musk, a guy who's literally redrawn the map for entire industries, from the cars we drive to how we think about getting to space.
Think about this for a second. This was Elon Musk back in 2008 facing a choice that is just terrifying. He was right on the edge of complete bankruptcy. Both of his big new companies, SpaceX and Tesla, were about to completely collapse. So, how does one of the richest people on the planet end up on the brink of losing it all? To really get it, we have to rewind the clock and go back to the very beginning to see where his first fortune came from and, more importantly, why he was willing to bet every single penny of it. All right, let's get into it. You see, Musk's story doesn't actually kick off with rockets or fancy electric cars. Nope. You gotta go back to the 90s, right in the middle of the dot-com boom. He had two ventures then that basically gave him the seed money for all the crazy ambitious stuff that came later. So first up, he co-founds this company, Zip2, which was basically an online city guide. He sells it to Compaq in '99 and walks away with a cool $22 million. Then he takes that cash and rolls it right into his next thing, X.com, an online bank. That company eventually merges with another one to become what we all know as PayPal. And when eBay bought PayPal in 2002, Musk, who was the biggest shareholder, cashed out with over $175 million. He wasn't even 31 years old.
Now, most people, right, they'd take that kind of money and just retire. But not Musk. He did something that, honestly, most people thought was completely nuts. He went all in, betting everything on two super difficult industries where a new company hadn't succeeded in decades.
So with that entire fortune from the PayPal sale, he made two gigantic and what looked like impossible bets. He threw $100 million into SpaceX, his brand new rocket company, with the goal of making humanity a multiplanetary species. And then he dropped over $70 million into Tesla, which at the time was just this tiny, struggling electric car company. I mean, he was left with practically nothing to live on. He actually had to borrow money from friends just to get by.
And this quote right here, it really sums up his whole philosophy. He was walking away from the pretty safe world of internet software and diving headfirst into the incredibly expensive and difficult world of hardware. We're talking rockets and cars, where, let's be honest, the odds are stacked against him.
And that massive gamble? Well, it brings us right back to 2008, the year it all almost fell apart.
Okay, look at this timeline, because this is where it gets absolutely wild. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. SpaceX had already failed 3 rocket launches. They had just enough cash for one last shot. In September, that 4th launch finally works, and just a few days later, boom, NASA gives them a life-saving $1.6 billion contract. At the very same time, Tesla is just burning through money, hours away from going bankrupt. And then, at 6 p.m. on Christmas Eve, the absolute last day they could have done it, Tesla's funding round closes. He was saved literally at the 11th hour.
So, he pulls it off. The companies are saved. Now we can get into the really interesting part, the playbook he used to build these things into the absolute giants they are today. And you can't tell that story without talking about his unique style of leadership.
You hear this term visionary leader thrown around a lot, but what does it actually mean in his case? Well, it's about setting these absolutely massive goals, like colonizing Mars or moving the entire world to sustainable energy. Goals so big they feel almost impossible. In businesses where it takes decades to see results and you're constantly hitting roadblocks, just making a profit isn't going to cut it. That's not what keeps the best engineers in the world working 80-hour weeks. The vision, that's the fuel.
But here's the twist. That big picture vision is paired with this super intense and, yeah, really controversial management style. He even calls himself a nano-manager, and a lot of people describe him as autocratic. But the key thing to understand is how these two sides are actually linked. To achieve those grand visions, you need execution that's close to perfect. When you're building rockets or cars, one tiny mistake can lead to a catastrophic failure. So his ruthless, super hands-on style is basically his way of making sure that extreme precision happens. So you get this incredible duality, the inspiring visionary on one side and the demanding, sometimes tyrannical, taskmaster on the other.
And you can really see that strategic mind at work right here. This wasn't just luck. Way back in 2006, he published Tesla's secret master plan. It laid out a super clear, step-by-step path. Start with an expensive sports car, the Roadster, and use the profits from that to build a cheaper car, and then use those profits to build an even more affordable car for the masses. He literally told everyone exactly how he was going to disrupt the auto industry, right from the beginning.
Okay, so after all that success with Tesla and SpaceX,
After becoming the richest person on Earth, you'd think maybe he'd slow down, right? Nope. He turned his sights on a new challenge, and this one might be his most chaotic one yet. In 2022, after he'd been publicly questioning Twitter's commitment to free speech, he just went for it. He launched a full-on hostile takeover of the social media giant. And after a whole lot of drama and back and forth, the deal was done. For $44 billion. I mean, that is a staggering amount of money even for him. And a lot of it was financed by loans he took out against his own Tesla stock.
And what happened next was just a whirlwind of change, a total chaotic overhaul. He fired the top executives right away, laid off a huge chunk of the workforce, slapped the new name on it, X, and completely changed the rules on content moderation, which led to a lot of reports of hate speech increasing on the platform.
So, what was the financial result of all that chaos? Well, it's been pretty grim. Sources like the Wall Street Journal have called it one of the worst deals in merger finance since the 2008 crisis. Just 2 years after he bought it, some estimates suggested the company had lost almost 80% of the value he paid for it.
So from nearly going broke to taking on these huge, world-changing challenges and stirring up endless controversy along the way, Musk's career is just a story of one high-stakes bet after another. And it really leaves you with a big question, right? Is he an innovator trying to save humanity, a chaotic disruptor, or something else entirely? What is the driving force behind this constant high-stakes risk-taking, and what does it all mean for the future he's so controversially trying to build?